Generalist, Nicole Espinosa, the short sale queen, here with us this evening. Nicole, thank you for taking the time, not only out of your busy schedule, but like we were just discussing, you are ready to have a baby. And here you are talking about short sales and all things investment.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, obviously there's a lot of buzz going on right now. Eviction moratorium has ended. We've got, the caveats of forbearance that people are facing right now, and people are just, not necessarily knowing up versus down in this really aggressive market. And so we're hearing a lot of buzz around distressed sales. Are they
Right.
coming back? Are they going to flood the market? So let's just start off with that and then go into your background after that. So what's your quick market analysis? You don't have a crystal ball, but give us one, what you think's coming down the pike in the next several months.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the opportunity to be nationwide. So we are in 12 different markets, which gives us a great gauge of what's going on across the country. And I can tell you that, first of all, we have so many people now that the protections are lifted, right? The foreclosure protections, like what you just said, that are now, we're having more conversations in the last 30 to 60 days than we've had in the last 2 years. And that's because people are starting to see that, hey, now that I don't really have an option, even though foreclosure is not going to happen right away. I mean, this is just not something that we're going to see immediately, right? Because it's going to take time. But we're going to start seeing the first wave of homeowners that are going to need help. And I know it's very difficult for, especially for realtors, to kind of wrap their brain around this because they're like, you don't understand. The market is so hot. There's no inventory. I'm like, yeah, but understand that as things start to stabilize, how the market shifts is where you start seeing the demand go away and the inventory increase. And you have so many homeowners that are kind of in limbo right now where they have equity. I mean,
Right.
not all of them are going to be short sales, right? Only the people that
Sure.
are really, really behind. But we have people that need the realtors in the community to kind of be a resource and kind of advise them, like, what is the best next step? Because the banks are always going to do what's best for them, right? The banks are going to push the modifications. The banks are going to push, let's try to pay us, even if that means adding to your balance and taking away your equity. I can say that the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they are cracking down hard on the banks, that
Okay.
they are required to help and give assistance. So if anybody calls their bank and says, hey, I'm struggling because of COVID, they automatically have their foreclosure suspended. And that's going to happen until next year. So that's kind of be the buzzword, which means that they're trying to avoid a wave of foreclosures, right? So we have people right now that are going to need to sell. And then we're going to have people that are going to drag it out because they want to stay in their home as long as possible until they have no other options and lose a lot of their equity next year. So I really believe at the end of this year, we're going to start to see things, a lot more inventory hit the market, a lot of more people reaching out. And then next year is where we're really going to start seeing the stats of inventory increasing, and a lot more foreclosures.
Okay, so let's talk about, because that was absolutely fantastic. Okay, we've already got people coming in. I knew this was going to be an engaging cycle. So Johnny Moed said, in this market, foreclosure and short sale opportunities are a great place to search for properties that may not be on the market just yet for buyers. So can you tap into that just a little bit, what Johnny was talking about?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Johnny. When you're, again, going back to being a resource, as a realtor, if you are able to advise those clients, like, hey, I can do this before you get into foreclosure. I can help you, because I have a buyer that, could pay off your loan, that could, put some money in your pocket. That's a great place to start. So if you guys are looking to market, you would be marketing to pre-foreclosures and people before they have an actual sale date.
Now, you just so happen to have done a video not too long ago on how to market to pre-foreclosures, because I was
Yeah.
snooping today. And so what a great place to start if that's something that somebody wants to, because what is technically a pre-foreclosure?
So a pre-foreclosure is someone that is in default that hasn't paid, let's just talk Texas, right? So Texas is a non-judicial state, which means that our foreclosure process is one of the fastest in the country. It only takes about 3 to 4 months for them to start the process where someone's in pre-foreclosure. And that just means that the bank has sent that notice of default and they've hired a substitute trustee, which is a foreclosure attorney. And once they've hired an attorney and they've filed, they've started the proceedings. It's going to take them, 60 to 90 days after that to actually foreclose, where they have a sale date. But before then, they're just in pre-foreclosure until they have an actual auction date.
Okay. So I'm going to go to definitions because and yes, Austin, we will ask about that in just a second, but definitions, because I think so many times you hear these words. So we just covered pre-foreclosure. What is the definition of a short sale?
So a short sale is where where the bank takes a short payoff,
Okay.
right? So the homeowner, in order to qualify for the short sale, they have to have some type of financial hardship and they have to owe more than the house is worth. So that's essentially what a short sale is. You have a potential client that needs to sell their house because they have some type of hardship and they can't afford it. But when you go to list it, you realize they can't even afford to list it at the market value because they owe too much.
Got it. Okay. Loss mitigation. We hear that word a lot, and I think people go, "Huh? Okay, what's loss
Yeah.
mitigation?"
Okay. So loss mitigation is basically essentially there's different loss mitigation options. So loss mitigation is where a homeowner is distressed and they're behind on their mortgage.
Okay.
So loss mitigation departments within the lender could include a loan modification, a short sale, forbearance, anything that's going to assist a potential homeowner with their loan.
Got it. You're doing so good, by the way. And then
She's
something
putting me
else.
on the spot too, guys.
I
She's
know,
just
I love it.
blowing out.
Yes. And then another thing that I think, because this is also going towards, we're talking about how to help people that are in these scenarios as
Right.
a potential resource, as a realtor, as a listing agent. But then there's also the opportunity to help a buyer or an investor. And so
Right.
there's different things that come into play. And then wholesaling obviously is a big dirty word that I think is thrown around a lot. Nobody really knows what it is. So Nicole, could you tell us what wholesaling is?
So I don't think it's necessarily a dirty word. I think realtors don't understand investors, and I think investors don't value realtors. And
Mhm.
so I talk about this a lot about there's a huge gap where, and realtors are like, it's just essentially a different way to sell the house,
Mhm.
right? Our value is that we can market the home on the open market, right? But we charge a fee. And for an investor, it's essentially the same thing. So wholesaling, just like there's some realtors that aren't good. There's not good investors, right?
Yeah.
So there could be in both ends. And because I'm in both worlds, I get both of the points
Mhm.
of why they feel each other, feel that way. But I feel like there's a huge gap that needs to be, bridged because we have so much value as real estate agents if we know what we're doing, that we can help investors and investors, vice versa. So I went on a whole tangent there, but wholesaling
No, yeah.
is wholesaling is essentially where you find an off-market client, a seller, a homeowner that is willing to sell. You put it under contract for a certain price, and then you find another buyer to actually purchase the contract. So you're assigning the contract to them for a different price. So, for example, if you're a homeowner and I said, "Hey, I'll buy your house $100,000 cash." I can do an assignable contract. So I'll say, Nicole Espinosa and or assigns, and then find another buyer that would actually purchase it for 110, and then I made $10,000 by assigning the contract. So that's essentially what wholesaling is. You're assigning contracts or you're selling contracts. And the reason why realtors don't understand is because they're like, no, absolutely not, you can get more, on the MLS or whatever. But it's just a different way, because sometimes if you can work with the cash buyer, you don't have to worry about contingencies, you don't have to worry about marketing. So there's a cost for convenience, right? So it's not necessarily bad, but it's just obviously there are investors that are not ethical, just like there's realtors that are not ethical. So there's that.
Amen to that. And I told you, we can throw anybody under the bus on this show because it's about iron sharpening iron and us being better as an industry as a whole. Um,
Absolutely.
so Austin, we're going to go back to Johnny in a second, but Austin wants to know, so how do we find these leads? And I think he was talking more about the pre-foreclosure potentials.
So you would, so like she had said earlier, I have a YouTube channel, The Short Sale Queen. You guys can go and I have a ton of videos on this. But to just kind of give you an overview, to find these leads, you would be purchasing lists for pre-foreclosures. So there's a bunch of different companies that will sell them for pre-foreclosure leads. It's also in our MLS. So
Mhm.
you can actually do a search under pre-foreclosure and auction and skip trace it yourself. So if you don't want to hire another company to pull that data for you, you can always do it yourself.
And that's awesome. And Austin, seriously, go on her YouTube channel. There is so much free content on there, and that's what I think is great about you, Nicole. There is plenty of ways to run your business, monetize, and do everything else, but you want to get good facts and information out there, because if this is something that somebody wants to do further, you guys have additional mentorship programs, training, education, and they can dig in. But people need to know where to start, because like Johnny said, so the idea of hunting for short sales and foreclosure sounds intriguing to newer agents or looking to expand their base source of leads. But what are some things we should watch out for, and a couple of things you wish you would have known before you entered this type of marketplace?
So I, like most entrepreneurs, just kind of go like just dive in. So I was just like, I'm gonna just call these people and see how I can help. Like most of the realtors out there. And one thing that I wish I would have known early on was understanding the objections that you're going to face with pre-foreclosures are the options that the homeowners face. And what I mean by that is, like, these clients, they don't need to be sold, right? When you call expireds, when you call for sale by owners, you're trying to sell them on your services. They do not care who you are.
Right.
Okay. So like, if you start talking about yourself, they're like, okay, that's great. You said realtor, I'm already checked out of the conversation because I don't want to sell. Understand that these type of clients need you. They don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
So your value needs to be shown through, hey, I've got answers and I'm a solution to your problem. And so most realtors fail to understand that, and they try to validate themselves like, I've been licensed for 20 years and I'm this and I'm that. Like, nobody cares. Right? Like, no, what they care about is, do you have a solution to their problem? So if you guys are wanting to get into this, I highly suggest that you read up, you understand the different exit strategies that these clients have and where your value proposition is before you start getting on the phones.
And I think that's so important, specifically for distressed owners, owners that are
Yeah,
in some sort of distressed situation. They didn't just fall into that position. Most of the
right,
time, there is a horrible life cycle that is going on. Divorce, job loss, death, sickness, something else that has buried them financially or emotionally to the point where they can't even continue to pay on their home or
right,
invest in their residence. And so I think it's just reverse engineering what's the objective, what's the goal, and
right.
being human and not just a
There,
salesperson.
there you said it. Being a human being,
Yeah,
right? Like, get the commission breath out of the way.
yeah.
Like, if you want to work with these type of people, you have to be empathetic. You have to be understanding, and you have to understand that it's not really about the sale. It's about, how can I fix this problem?
Okay, so Brenda Joy Braxton said, "What is the best method to find people who are in need of a realtor in a short sale or pre-foreclosure status? Otherwise, how do we help them to list their home?" And I think Brenda's probably coming from a good angle. People need to know that we are out there. If we do want to approach it in a humane way, is there a way to? And
Right.
I know you just kind of said this as far as searching for the pre-foreclosures. Is there any other tip on that?
Yeah, so whatever platform that you're most active on, the best way to start is to just talking about like how you can help, right? So for example, with all the people that are coming out of forbearance, like, what can you talk about of saying, hey guys, don't wait until the last minute. I can help walk you through and save the house, and how, whatever angle that you're trying to do, use your social media platforms to get the education out there, so that people know that they do have options before it goes to foreclosure. As far as marketing to pre-foreclosures, text, email, the text, call, direct mail, all of that's the same, right? For any type of prospecting. But if you're coming from the realtor approach, making sure that again, going through the options and providing solutions, not just like, hi, I'm a realtor, I can sell your house. Like, it doesn't work that way with these type of clients.
So, like sitting there with just a graphic that you put out from Canva on your social media, are you in a short sale status? I'm a realtor. That's not going to do it, guys. You've got to
No.
figure out how to articulate your value proposition.
Yep. And you've already said two words on there that would turn people off, that you're a realtor and short sale. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to stay in my home. I want to stay in my home. So that's
Well,
the
and
biggest objection.
going back to Brenda's, that's where you are now, Nicole, is you are the short sale expert. And so, Brenda, it might not be for you to actually market to these people. Maybe you don't want to do, maybe you still want to help, but refer them to somebody like Nicole and her team that do this every day.
Right.
And I think because now you only work by referral, isn't that correct?
Yeah. We're 100% referral. We don't do any type of direct marketing.
That's amazing. Okay, so going back to Johnny, As a Netrus member, you also get Remind that will allow you to easily look at that type of stuff. If you aren't familiar with that, several Metrotech classes that will help. By the way, Johnny is on the Netrus board. If
I can tell.
you haven't gathered that, and he's he constantly educates himself and is trying to bring more relevancy and value to our realtor industry as well. And he's right, that is actually a really neat tool that sources public data. But there are companies out there that kind of streamline it. You want to pay the fee and everything else. They'll kind of do some of that researching for you. Sherry Fierbacher is our chair of professional development. And again, she is my mother, so she always chimes in. But educate yourself before diving in. And she's right. And that's what you're talking about, Nicole. And again, what your YouTube channel, which we posted in the chat over here, go and educate yourself. See if this is even something you want to do, because short sales, they don't just happen in a 30-day cycle most of the time, right, Nicole?
Yeah. So the industry average is a year if it gets approved. Our standard is 2 to 3 months. So we close our short sales an average of 2 to 3 months. So according to the end, we have because we have a process. That's all we do.
Sure.
We've developed the process over the last decade. So it's definitely not a short process. Short sale means short payoff, not short process or short sale. So
I love that, because I remember when I've done probably 15, somewhere around there, and that was over 10 years ago. And my favorite would be the real thick packet that they would require you to fax.
Yeah.
And you'd sit there and you just go, and then it would get jammed or something, and you just sweat coming down my face trying to get the packet to go through.
So fast forward 2021, we now have eFax. Unfortunately, they haven't updated the fax part, but we have eFax where we literally just email the PDF, and now it's, it works. But I always laugh when I see the memes, because whenever I have like a staff or agent or anything that comes on board, I'm like, welcome to, you are now, a part of like those memes that say, oh, I don't want to fax this to you because 2021. I was like, we still use it. So.
No, we have an eFax. And going back to Sherry, she is also the one that runs our operations for our business. Yeah. And she always said, do we really need the $13 a month eFax subscription? I'm like, the one time I need this, it is going to pay off. So, so yes, you do need an eFax. But okay, so Johnny went back to safety is always important in the industry. What type of safety measures do you take when taking on listings where there may be lots of emotions at play?
Well, we vet our clients like before we even go out to the appointments. And a lot of the things that we do now are virtual because of last year of COVID and things like that. Sure. But, we get all the information up front. So a lot of our due diligence is pre-qualifying the client before we even get to the appointment. So we make sure that they qualify, we're setting their expectations on the phone, and they're pretty much just ready to sign when we get there. And they have all the information that they need, because we're not going to waste our time. We're not going to go out. Sure. The hardest part of the short sale is actually not the bank. It's the homeowner. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think, oh, well, the bank's going to give me a hard time. And that's true. But a lot of times negotiating with the homeowner is harder than negotiating with the bank.
Of course, the bank has the objective. They still want to get it to the finish line. They just, there's 17 arms and layers that they have to go through. That doesn't seem like it's overly efficient, and they don't want to expedite things. But Johnny's right. And I think September is Realtor Safety Month, if I'm not mistaken. And so that is, but yes, and there's also nothing short in a short sale. So keeping those things in mind, again, Nicole and her team are experts. This is what they do. So vetting the clients before you just jump into anything, continuing to educate yourself, all of those things. Okay, so Pamela Ashbrook. Hi, all. Give me a shout if you need a realtor with wholesale, foreclosure, etc. I have access and educated on all. Well, geez, Pamela just dove in, Nicole. I mean, this is what realtors do, though, isn't it?
It is, totally is.
Yes.
But that's great, Pamela.
Hey, no, that's the whole thing. I mean, I think that's what we're trained to do. It's Realtor Training Camp 101. Make sure you're not the secret agent. Put yourself out there. If you're not getting yeses, it's because you're not asking enough and going through the nose. But at some point, you do have to realize that there is so much that's going on. Even in a normal situation, when there's not a distress sale, it is highly emotional to go through the selling and buying process in real estate.
And you also have to understand too that, during this process, not only do they have to go through what you normally go through, right? Like having to find a new place to live or whatever, it's months of having them go through your financials, going back and forth. And so mentally, if you don't keep them engaged, if you don't set their expectations, they can check out. And like my biggest mistake early on was I was focused so much on the banks and trying to figure out and establish my process and figure out how to get them to take the loss and really figure out how to close them, that I lost so many clients because they had just completely checked out. They would change their phone number, they would move and not tell me that it was relevant, or they'd cancel altogether because I didn't do a good job of setting the expectations and keeping them engaged. And a lot of that is because it's taking months and nothing's happening. And if they don't know you're working hard for them, they're like, okay, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's great to bring up because it does take time and you do get focused on the transactional part. Okay, now let's get this short sale approved and
Right,
processed. But it is because they are diving into all of the things that this poor seller perceived in their mind that I've done wrong. And
right.
they get victimized over and over and over again. And they have to make hardship statements. They have to fill out different forms and do all of these things. And you might get all of that done out of the way. But then, like you said, there's additional things that are asked of them throughout the process. And so
Yeah. And
getting
then
a
you're the messenger. And so I always, don't shoot the messenger. Yeah. It becomes real quick of like, hey, this is not me. This is me. I'm telling you what the bank, because they can get very frustrated. And so absolutely going back to what Johnny said, it's completely emotional, but that's why it's our job as professionals
yeah,
in any transaction and traditional and, whatever, to be the, voice of reason and to be driving the bus. Because I think so many agents don't understand that you are the professional. They hired you for a reason. And they're like, well, my client said I have to do what my client wants. I'm like, your client doesn't know what they want, or they don't know that this is not the right way to do it.
mhm,
And even in traditional training, it blows my mind with my agents where I see them being like, well, my client said this. I'm like, okay, well then go tell your client what's supposed to happen, and they do just such a terrible job of actually representing them. And
yes.
then they still get fired anyway because the outcome was exactly what it was going to be in the beginning because they stuck to their job. You know what I mean? So a lot of these
Self-fulfilling
agent,
prophecy.
right? It's like
Yeah.
you have to understand because if you're not confident in your value as a realtor, if you don't know like the process and how it's supposed to be, and you can't drive the bus, then you
Mhm.
shouldn't be representing anyone. So that's really what it comes down to. That's why most of the transactions fail are because of the realtor.
You just hit the nail on the head or on the nose, whatever you want to say. And that's what we have to go because again, there are things like wholesaling, iBuyer platforms, people do for sale by owner because they devalue what we do because we have
Yep.
devalued ourselves and our value
Yep.
proposition for decades. Because
Yep.
when realtors were at the height of, maybe their own perceived popularity, it's because we held all the information, we held the
Yep.
keys, nothing was automated, nothing was online. And now guess what? All of it is. There's electronic entry,
Yeah.
all the listings are syndicated throughout different platforms, and so we have to evolve with what our value proposition is. And this is what part of what this platform is about is it's real talk and we better get real with it because there's disruption in our marketplace and our industry because other
Yep.
people said you're not doing what you need to do. So I'm going to come and I'm going to take your clients from you.
And I don't really engage a lot in Facebook, the groups, the realtor groups, because it's just a bunch of like bitching sessions and stuff. But like I see these realtors that are so threatened by technology, so threatened by these platforms. And I'm like, why? This is amazing. If you utilize the technology, it's amazing for your business because at the end of the day, if you're threatened, it's because you have nothing to bring to the table. Like you think that your job is just to open doors. But if you're really running a business, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, I can't even tell you the last door I opened. Like,
Yeah.
it was probably my sister, and I didn't even want to do it. Like, I mean, literally, it was years ago. Like, but I mean, I don't even know where my super key is because that's not where my time is best
Yeah.
spent. Like, my time is best spent generating revenue and running the business
Sure.
and making sure that the clients are in a good financial position or that their house is being sold or all of that. Like, that's what I need to be doing, not going and running opening doors and things like that. So
Now you did date yourself a little bit because I don't think we have super keys anymore. So it is on the phone. So
it was
we have
whatever.
put the marketing push. Everybody is supposed to turn in their super key because it's going
Oh, okay.
all to
Well,
you. No,
good thing I haven't found it.
no, so but that's, you are absolutely right. And you said a couple of things that I want to highlight there. One, our last real talk was about the MLS changes and that we just removed areas. When was the last time you used areas or even used an MLS?
You know what? 2011, I remember when I started, 2010, 2011, when we got the listings, because I used to do REO. That's how I got into this business. And we had to map out by Mapsco. That's the last time.
Yeah. Guess what? Mapsco is gone, which is why
Yeah.
the area system is antiquated. But I'll tell you, I got hammered in this chat
Oh,
about the,
really?
oh yeah, it was hysterical. And Kathy Faulkner, who's the head of our MLS department with Metrotex and has been there for almost 30 years. You know, you would think that she is the villain of all villains of real estate and did this intentionally to hack everybody off in all of Dallas.
That's
But
hilarious.
it was antiquated mapping tools. I mean, there's so many things that are there, but it's, you know, they brought up, it's like everybody hated zip forms. God forbid you get rid of the forms closet. I mean, I don't know about
Right.
you, but it's a lot more efficient to be able to type in and populate things online.
No
So,
kidding.
yes.
Yeah.
But
Well, people just don't like change.
no, they don't like change. I love it because then everybody else is pissing and moaning, and I'm sitting there 5 steps ahead. And I know that's the way you think as well. But going back to, you know, the distress sales, Sherry Woman said the emotional impact of this is huge. Marriages and families suffer. Realtors need to remember this is unbelievable stress. And again, that's just in a normal scenario. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had multiple clients actually think about getting divorced after going through the process because it exacerbates all of the tiny little cracks in your foundation,
Oh, yeah.
you know, because we're super leveraged nowadays. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not saying that we weren't leveraged 20 years ago, but there is very little time left for anything else. And this is a rough, emotional, raw situation. So then
Yeah.
bringing in the distress aspect of it, I mean, it's
Well,
huge.
think about it too, that when you talk about the distress aspect, they're literally going to lose their home if you're not successful. I mean, this is
No
not
pressure.
just like, hey, yeah, no pressure or anything, but it's not like, hey, I'm gonna list it and see what happens. It's like, I'm gonna list it and see what happens. And if I don't sell it or if I don't know what I'm doing, they're gonna get foreclosed on. And now they have no options because I robbed them from that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of realtors don't get that. Like you'll see a lot of expired short sales, and it's because they got foreclosed on because they didn't know the questions to ask. They didn't know how to help the client, and that client trusted them. They trusted them that they were going to help them. And as realtors, you know, we have limitations to what we can and can do, or what we should and shouldn't do,
Sure.
right? I'm not going to do a commercial sale property because I don't understand the leases. I don't understand all of that. Like I don't do that. That's not my scope of expertise. But people get into this thinking like, I have a license, I can help you, and they
Mhm.
end up putting those clients in that situation. So
Well, and in our, when we originally talked before the show, you said a statement that just continued to resonate with me, and that was generalists, not specialists. And that is exactly what you just said. Commercial is
mhm,
not your proficiency. Therefore, you're not going to practice in commercial because I think people have forgotten we do have a fiduciary responsibility to our
right,
client. And if we're not the best ones to facilitate this, then we need to find somebody that is. So if I refer you, Nicole, my short sale person, because everybody's so scared. This is supposed to be like we can help one another. If I have
right,
somebody that has a short sale and I say my business is not set up to be able to facilitate this type of transaction, I'm going to
right,
refer to you, Nicole. In return, you're not going to sit there and then try to take all of my other business from me because I gave you one client in a
right.
specialized situation.
Right.
You
If
know?
anything, it's going to make you look like a rock star because you were able to help them, even if you're not doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And now they're being taken care of.
Yeah.
So they're still going to go to you, Ashley. They're still going to say,
Sure.
hey, talk to Ashley because Ashley has the answers. And even though Ashley wasn't able to do it herself, she was able to point me in the right direction. And that's what I try to explain to people is like, you, even if you don't want to actually do short sales, the fact that you're able to be a resource for your sphere of influence, for your community, and for the people around you, that makes you the expert. Even if you're not facilitating the transaction, that just makes you the go-to person. So if you think that referring something out, which is better for everyone, you have that's not the best, scenario. Like, you have a very limited mindset, and you need to understand there's enough business for everyone, which is why, people all the time are like, why do you give so much free information away? I'm like, there's enough business for everyone.
Thank you.
And you have to come from a place of abundance. You always have to do what's right for your clients, because it'll always come back tenfold, like every time. Plus, you're going to get a referral fee. Plus, you're going to know, hey, this person's being taken care of, and you're not going to take on something that you don't know how to do.
Well, and I think that's it right there. I mean, I just did a video and sent it out to my sphere earlier today because we had really cool legislative wins that happened with like realtor backed initiatives, the HOA reform being one of them. There's a lot of HOA overreach and everything else. And so for me, it was, hey, guess what? You've given me a call before bitching and moaning about resale certificates, anything else. If you've ever bought or sold in an HOA or lived in one, sometimes there are pains that go with it. So by me sitting
try negotiating with them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So going back, I mean, gosh, people don't really, HOAs can foreclose on you as well. And so try being in double foreclosure, which I've helped a seller with before. And we funded it 24 hours before both foreclosed. So, it's that. And it was me saying, hey, this wasn't a divorce. All realtors treat real estate transactions and their clients like it's a divorce once they actually facilitate everything. But I'm the pain in the neck that's sitting there and reaching out probably 12 to 16 times a year because Jason Esparza is on this chat right now. And he taught me to do that. Riches are in the niches. He's always the one, him and his fantastic wife, Amber Esparza.
I love them.
Yes, I know. So they are fantastic. And that was something that was so huge for my business was, again, having that infinite mindset and being okay with, I want to be the go-to regardless. And if somebody doesn't want to work with me, it wasn't the right fit to begin with. And we had a lopsided value proposition with one another, but my clients come back to me tenfold.
100%. And you know what? You do something already that you guys have to understand. In our industry, the bar is so low. Okay. Yeah. The fact that you do, I mean, it's so true. Like you said, this is real talk, right? Okay, great.
Let's do it.
So the bar is very low. Like, people ask all the time, like, how did you build this brand, this business? And I'm like, I'm going to give you something mind blowing. I did what I said I was going to do. Like, everybody stop right there. I did what I said I was going to do. If you asked me to do something or you sent somebody over, I did it. Like, I called the client, I got them on board. You knew every step of the way. And it was taken care of. Like, there was never a doubt in anyone's mind that I was going to answer my phone, that I was going to follow up, and that I was going to get it done. And the consistency with that, with my brand the last decade, is how I have the reputation I do. I mean, if you can imagine, we do over 100 a month. So for us to be that high of volume consistently every single month says something, especially because we know how realtors are. The fact that they're referring it to us and they're trusting us says something, right? Yeah. And if you want to be that realtor, again, the bar is very low. Follow through. Okay. Don't spend all the energy trying to get the referral. Actually do something with it. Like, follow through. People spend so much energy trying to get it, but nothing to keep it. And they don't understand that our word is our reputation. It's all we have. And in this business, guys, I run into people I met 10 years ago. Like, this is a very small industry.
It is.
And I mean, I have people all over the country that are like, oh, Nicole, the short sale queen. Oh, whatever. I heard about you because of this person. And I'm like, oh, cool. Because word of mouth travels so fast. So for people to keep coming back to you, it says something. It's because you're consistent, because you're constantly saying the same message. You're staying in front of them, and they recognize you as the expert of standing out among everybody else who has this like shiny object syndrome of, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And they are generalists, and they're not known for anything. There's nothing special about them. Getting your license is just the formality. It means absolutely nothing. You have to actually do something with it. You have to actually be consistent and stick out and with one thing. And that's how you become a specialist. You go all in on one thing and you're consistent.
Well, one, you are amazing. You are a breath of fresh air as well. And of course, Jason Esparza said, we love you both as well. # power women. But that is what it's all about. And it's also realizing, again, you have the livelihood and the trajectory of somebody's life sitting in the palm of your hand. And if you don't consider that every single day with what you do, there is a problem. You need to get in another business. AirPod down, AirPod
I
down.
know. I lost one there. There you go.
Yes, but that's what's huge about this. I don't take it lightly, and if somebody reaches out to me and asks me a question, I don't panic and try to just blow an answer out there. I go, "You know what? I don't know, but I bet you I know somebody who does, and I'm gonna find the right person to help you with that." Whether it's in
Absolutely.
real estate or it's something else. And I think it's just okay to not actually have an answer, but then be able to dig in your little bag of tricks and say, "But Nicole does."
Yeah.
And I'm gonna set you up with Nicole. So I am going to go back to Johnny's comment, Ashley's cup, laugh out loud. I do. I told you it's been a long day and you don't know what's in it. And then, of course, my mother had to do the eye roll because I know we got to get Dustin up in there, but no, she had to do the eye roll because I think she's proud of me sometimes, question mark. But but that's okay. But yes, but that's the whole point of this. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things we do, and I love doing this show. But it is raw and it is real, and these are the things that we need to be talking about, and really pulling the veil off of the problems. Why there is such a low bar in our industry. I mean,
Right.
again, I've talked about this before. I think we're sandwiched on like the list of trusted professionals in between sex workers and attorneys.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. And now it
That's
might have changed.
embarrassing.
It might have moved up in the list or down. I don't,
Yeah.
but I remember going to a
Well,
conference and them saying that, and I'm going, that's a pretty big deal right there in a statement.
I mean, and the people that are, I don't know what the number is. I believe it's like the top 1% do like 75% of the transactions, right? Because most of the realtors are like the onesie twosies and then they just get out of the industry and all that. So you can, when you actually meet an actual company, like a real estate company that actually runs it like a business, like a team, like that they stand out and they are respected. But for the overall reputation of a realtor, I mean, it's a joke and it's for a reason. I mean, and those people are the ones that are going to get cut out when you have the Zillows and you have the iBuyer programs because they're doing is streamlining what they're doing every day. So
Mhm.
I agree with you, and I feel like as a community, we have to do better. We have to get, back to, hey, let's trust this person because this is what they're supposedly doing every day,
Yep.
where they're supposed to know better than Google
Mhm.
on how to help me with the contracts and how to
Yeah.
protect me, from these situations. But it starts with us, right?
It starts with us, and it also starts with setting proper expectations, which is
Yeah.
something that you guys do in your business when you're
Hmm.
talking to somebody, is teeing up those expectations of what this process is going to look like, what is going to be expected
Yeah.
of the counterpart that you're dealing with in there. And I think all, whether it's a distress sale or traditional real estate, we do a poor job of setting those expectations,
Yeah.
especially in the
100%.
market right now. I mean, this was a market that I don't think anybody's ever seen before. Obviously, it was unprecedented, and you had to be on your feet this entire time to figure out. But it was okay to say, I don't have all the answers. And
Right.
there's going to be some situations, working with buyers. I've had agents who said, I just don't work with buyers right now. I'm just telling them if you don't have cash and you can't do this. And I'm
I've
like,
seen so many agents say that.
um, ugh. I've literally
Yeah.
talked to them on the phone and I just won't do it right now. I'm just telling wait till next year. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because
Yeah.
lifestyle changes are still occurring. I've got one,
Right.
actually, one of my closest friends was just calling me right now, and I helped her kids move literally a half a mile down the road. They're having their second baby. Life has changed. Being close to family is very important. And this was
Yeah.
something for them. So they wanted to be able to capitalize on the equity of their home and be able to move closer to family, which they wouldn't have been able to do without this market. Um,
Yeah.
and it was difficult. But you know what? We actually ended up, we were going to make two different offers. One had a flat fee service on the other side, and the other one was an agent that I ended up getting on the phone right away. And it was tale of two situations. One said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for calling, I'm getting these offers, nobody's even calling me to talk to me about it you know
Oh, it's so funny too because especially the last couple months, I think things have slowed down a little bit
Yeah.
from the craziness because we have seen more inventory and we have kind of like buyer fatigue. But there was one point where we would put a listing up. And I mean, I would personally put like an investment property that I would sell.
Sure.
And it's always interesting when you're the seller, right? Because then you get to see the holes of the business. But I remember I had 11 offers, and it was within the like 2 days. I had 11 offers, and half of the people that I called didn't even remember the house. They didn't even look at it. And they're like, which house is this? And they had put like 6 other offers. And it's like, I actually, for a house that was so in demand, like on the surface level, I was actually having a hard time finding a buyer,
Yeah.
like a good buyer,
Sure.
because everyone else was like, oh, well, I'm not sure. And they only just put things out. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
The agents would end up like, okay, well, we rescind our offer or whatever. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the buyer's agents, they just kind of put everything out there hoping that something would stick,
Yep.
but they were doing such a huge disservice to their clients. And like you said, like they were like, well, I just, I either want to do this or not work with them at all.
Mhm.
And so it just started making it almost like 10 times more difficult, even as like a listing agent, because all we work with is listings,
Yeah.
and trying to find actual solid buyers. So the people that didn't think they even had a chance to get the property ended up getting it because they were solid, they answered the phone, they were on top of it, and they weren't just trying to play the game.
Can you
So
believe that what you just said just blows my mind, because that does resonate. It's been on every single deal. And on that specific deal, I told my friends' kids from jump, I said, look, I got to find the right agent on the other side where
yep,
game appreciates game and will
yep,
answer the phone. But when immediately when they put in all caps, do not call me, do not text, only email, blah, blah, blah. I've literally said, I have no tactical advantage. It's not about professionalism or anything
right,
else. It's purely going to be about price. And so if
right,
I can't do anything about price, then we need to move on. And that was the situation with that. The one agent, we talked for 20 minutes. She was happy I called. People weren't even
yeah,
calling her back. The other agent said, I'm not going to talk to you on the phone. And I said, well, are there any other contributing factors? Lease back, anything else?
yeah.
Just price. And I relayed that to them, and they said, we're not going to make an offer on that one. Made an offer on the other one. We were offer number 2 and 20,000 below, and the seller still went with us.
Right, because literally has nothing to do with price, honestly. Like, yes, of course, you want the highest,
Sure.
but most of the time it's no, is there a solid lender?
Uh-huh.
Can you actually close? Do you have the funds? Is your agent not going to get in the way of this transaction and drive us crazy in negotiations, or, like not being able to communicate with them and really advocate for their clients? So for us, it was like, we need good agents. Like, we would rather encourage our clients, like, hey, we know this is solid,
Yeah.
compared to someone just writing up an inflated offer that they're going to end up rescinding.
They're
So
gonna try to,
yeah,
scratch it back during inspections or something else or whatever in
yeah.
between. I mean, just filling out a contract in its entirety would be nice too.
Oh, that would be great.
It would be great. I don't know how many different companies I've worked for as a listing agent when I get these offers in play, because they've probably written 10. And they
Right.
and I, I work with, ABC Realty, and I'm like, okay, well, this is fine. I've been offered a trip personally. I've been offered money under the table. I don't know that I'm going to sell my soul or my real estate career for $500 cash, but Nicole, I
Yeah.
mean, would
No kidding.
yeah,
Wow.
it's just
Well,
insane. You go ahead.
I was gonna say that I've had literally emails where people were like, "Hey, just let me know if this is even worth typing up." I'm like, "This isn't. I'm not presenting this. Like, actually send me." It just, the laziness that
Uh-huh.
like is just blows my mind, and I feel so bad for the clients, because
Yeah,
I'm like, if you understood that the only reason why you're probably a solid buyer, the only reason why we didn't go with you is because you're agent.
yeah.
Like, it's unfortunate.
All right, so Sherry came back. She's like, "You two are highlighting the need for raising the bar in the industry. So needed. Thank you both." And Sherry doesn't give compliments a lot, by the way, Nicole, especially to all my guests. So no,
Appreciate that.
yes, no, absolutely. And of course, Johnny, for the agents who do shady things, remember it's a very small town and agents like to talk. You
Oh
are
yes.
correct, sir. And that goes back to what Nicole said, which was a very small fraction of the realtors actually do the majority of the business. And this is not just, in a private group or anything else. This is out for consumers to see as well. And
Absolutely.
consumers need to demand and command better as well. And I think some of that has to go back. know what you want to see in an agent. And if they're not doing that for you and setting proper expectations, move on.
Yep.
Because I think that's it. You see highly intelligent people just sometimes click a button, to have an agent show them a property. And right now, relationships matter more than anything because, like you said, you want to know that you've got that winning situation on the other side that's going to get you to the closing table.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
so those are the things. Now, oh gosh, we just went on so many tangents. We have 15 minutes left, which is great because obviously this has been a great topic. But let's talk about a couple of things before we have to pop off. So one thing is you're in 12 different markets, Nicole,
Mhm.
but it's not just you. How big is your team?
So I have 11 people on staff and
Okay.
I have 6 agents. And so I had a real estate team for the last decade that I no longer have. And now I have a network within the company that we're with. So basically, because we are nationwide, we have agents all over the country within our network. And so my goal is to just build, my whole business is off relationships. So to continue to build those relationships so that, if we do have properties, because I'm constantly giving out referrals and being able to connect people together for, things beyond short sales, investment properties or traditional listings, things like that. So 11 people on staff, which includes, how many people? One, two, I'm in my office right now. I think like 6 or 7 people in office, and then the rest are virtual.
But that's huge because that means what's what we talked about. You have a business. You are not a one
Hmm.
man show. You are not haphazardly, working with short sales. You aren't doing this. This was your business. And there's a cost to doing business. You have,
100%.
you know, you have people you have to pay. Mouse, you have
Payroll's not cheap.
no,
Payroll's not cheap. Every two
no.
weeks.
But to do it right and to continue to scale and be able to do the 100 plus transactions, you said a month, is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
You have to have the people in place to be able to facilitate those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's taken, and this isn't, I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, it's always been like this, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's really me being out of production has only been the last 3 years. So, and
sure.
I've been doing this for 10 years. So, and these freaking AirPods, you pay so much money for them and they just,
I know.
anyways, but the last couple years, it really has been just a game changer for me that of the systems and the accountability that I've built because I don't have to come to the office now. Like
Sure.
now I'm managing, now I'm, putting out fires and problem solving, but I'm not doing the day to day. And so our model is very much like really honestly how the bank structured it. We have negotiators, we
Yeah.
have processors, we have somebody that just does all the lead intake because we get I don't even know, like 10 to 20 referrals a week, but we have to filter through them because it's all
Sure.
over the country and making sure that they qualify and making sure that a short sale is the best option for them. As well as because of our marketing, just homeowners that come to us directly that we're able to refer out to other realtors and realtor partners. So, yes, absolutely. I learned very early on that if I was going to work this hard, that I wanted to create a company, not a self employed job. And
Yeah.
a lot of realtors can't get out of this hustle and grind mentality because they don't know any better. They're just trying to go one closing to the next.
Mhm.
But I was very clear, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. If I'm gonna work this hard, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves, bust my ass, and figure out how to build this out. And I have failed more than I've succeeded, but we're here now, so that's all that matters.
Learning experiences all the way. And,
100%.
I mean, and then that was like, so again, doing my research, I was looking at your Facebook page and you made a post, and I don't know exactly what you said, but it was basically the people that have made it worked really hard to get there. Don't
Hmm.
forget about that.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Just because it's so easy to look at people's highlight reels. And I mean, let's be real here. We also are an industry where we glamorize like $1 million producers. Like, let's talk about that. Okay. What does $1 million producer mean? That means you sold like 1 or 2 homes, right? That it doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm all for, celebrating the small wins,
yeah.
but understand that if you want to build a business, you have to move your ego aside, right? Like you can't get hung up on this. Like I have so many awards that are like paperweights because it doesn't mean anything, right? What means something is the impacts that I make on my employees. What
Mhm.
means something is my net, not my gross, my net and operating, on what we take home, what we're actually creating, the wealth that we're building, the properties that we're purchasing. So it's a mindset. And I think in this industry, people see like the commission and they're like, oh, one sale to the next. And I get it. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a salesperson, and
Sure.
it took me a long time to get out of the hustle and grind. I mean, literally up until a couple of years ago, because you would just fix your money problems by just doing another sale.
Yep.
But it wasn't until I took a step back and realized, like, okay, what do I want? What do I want my lifestyle to look like? If I'm on vacation, do I want to be glued to my phone,
Mm,
or do I want to be able to turn it off and the world, nobody's dying, everything's being
yeah.
taken care of? And now, I'm just grateful because now I'm in a position where I get to just create, right? I get to mentor, I get to create, I get to coach, I get to do the things that I want to do because I've been able to buy my time back. So yeah,
That's huge. And that's the one thing that we can't do. I mean, you
yeah.
can't purchase more time, but if you
Mhm.
can get it back in the way of what your daily schedule looks like, that is huge. And we do have to look into that mindset because I now pay myself with a paycheck. I don't take commission. And I
That was the
think,
hardest part. That was the hardest
yeah,
part. It took me forever.
yeah, no, but hey, same here. I had to have enough money to
Yeah.
be able to do that. Sometimes you're like,
Oh
"Oh,
yeah.
thank you, Jesus. I could put my, I could pay my mortgage, do whatever." But now
Yeah.
it's to the point where there's freedom in that because you can make discerning choices. What's best for your reputation? What's best for your business? What's best for your
Yeah.
employees? Because not everybody's a right fit for you,
You
and
know
that's
what?
how
That honestly is a whole other podcast because hiring and managing and being a leader is a whole other show because
oh gosh.
that journey. I mean, I have literally taken my entire company apart twice
Uh-huh.
because of that. I mean, that's a whole other thing because
Been
it's
there.
true. Yeah, it's because it's funny because when we get a job, right? You get a W-2 job, a 9 to 5, you know exactly what you need to do because the employer provides that structure. And then the one thing that makes us thrive is structure, but we have to create it ourselves as entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And that's why most people are like, what am I doing all day? What am I supposed to be doing? Who am I supposed to be calling? Oh, I'm on Facebook, but now I'm arguing and scrolling and I'm actually not doing anything
Uh-huh.
generating income or productive.
Yeah.
I'm in an argument or I'm in a post. And so it's just one of those things where it's like you have to understand that if this is something you want to do, you have to take a step back and work on your business and not be in your business.
Uh-huh.
And that's a really hard concept for a lot of entrepreneurs to really grasp.
Well, and there was something we both came from the same original system that pushed the DISC profile and assessment. And not for nothing, but there's something to be said about it. It doesn't, you don't have
Yeah.
to sit there and follow everything to a T. But
Yeah.
I made, my right hand, Susanna, who is the only reason I can do what I do to, day to day. I asked her to take it again. I was like, let's just do the free one and see what it is. She's like, I hate it. I hate doing that stuff because she gets internal. She's the exact
Yeah.
opposite as I am. And she takes it
Yeah.
so literal, but it needed to be. And we were polar opposites, which I already knew we were, but I knew I
Which
needed
is
her.
great.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
No.
great
Yes.
because that's the other huge mistake people make. They hire people that are like themselves,
Uh-huh.
and that's why they're never successful because they need someone that is going to fill the gaps, like identifying
Yeah.
who you are, where your weaknesses or strengths are, and hiring to your weaknesses.
Yes.
And most people don't do that. Most people are like, "Oh, I really like that person. I get along with them. Okay, great," but they're not going to keep you organized. They're not going to keep you on task. So,
Well, no, and I've been communicating back and forth with one of your counterparts, Alice, who is
yeah,
obviously your structured personality, and
yep.
Susanna's is that she constantly is running through lists, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it today. I don't want to look at the list. I don't want to do the
Yeah,
list. I'm like, let's go to
yeah,
happy hour instead. And then she's like, today we're doing the list, you
yeah,
know. And you have to have those people in your sphere and in your ecosystem, personal life and
absolutely,
professional life. So
100%.
and because right now you are 9 months pregnant,
Almost,
almost 9 months pregnant.
almost.
You have 2 other children, you have a
Mhm.
thriving business, and you told me that I said, "Oh my gosh," and here you are, still a consummate professional doing this tonight, and you said you have a full October, so this baby needs to get here so you can get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, we're scheduling things out, it's gonna happen.
But that's huge because you said you couldn't do it without what you've
Oh,
built
yeah.
around you.
Well, I couldn't do it without my fiance. I couldn't do it without Alice. I couldn't do it without my operations manager. I mean, they make it to where I don't have to worry every day, right? Like I come in because I need to come in for my appointments and things, but they handle everything around me, and they're constantly like, "Hey, Nicole, don't forget about this. Don't forget. We need to do this, or they'll schedule this." And so, I mean, I am as ADD as ADD comes. Like, I am like all over the place, and so I learned early on I need those people in my life if I'm going to thrive.
Yes.
So
No, and I think that's huge. And Brenda chimed in again and said, Nicole, you're modest. I notice you offer mentorship, boot camp, and short sale courses. That's amazing. And Brenda, that is amazing. And that's because you are a specialist, not a generalist, and you are constantly trying to figure out what that next thing is that you need to put in your tool chest. And I think that's what's huge about that is, Nicole, you are here to stay. Your team is here to stay, and so if you want to learn more about this kind of stuff, go to Nicole. You are sitting here and educating these people that want to learn more because
yeah,
again, it's that infinite mindset, it's that abundance mindset, not that scarcity mindset, because there are more people that are doing it right that
yep,
benefits all of us.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
I
so I
mean,
want
and that's the biggest thing is that that's why I started teaching. So full circle, I used to teach at Metrotex, and
yes.
I used to teach my 2 hour class at Metrotex, and it was CE, and that's really how I built my brand, right? Like in the community, is I was offering those classes, and I remember I used to teach like very similar to now of how we process and all of our secrets. And I remember people used to ask me, first of all, if I drink a lot because they realized what we did. But they also asked, like, why are you giving all of this away? Like, why are you teaching us this? I'm like, because there's enough business for everyone.
Yep.
Like, I understand that this may not be for everyone, but if I can help realtors, advise their clients and actually put them in a better situation, it's a win for everyone in the
Yep.
community. Less foreclosures, and people at the end of the day are going to do it. There's not hardly any resources when it comes to this niche. When I learned this, I had to learn the hard and expensive way by failing, by paying money, because no one teaches about this. And it's crazy to me because even on a national level, we talk about literally everything. Like you have 100 different options to learn about traditional, about cold calling, about this, but nothing about short sales. And so because this niche is something that most people don't understand. So that's why we're super passionate about educating realtors, because there's just not that information out there. And I wish that I had someone that I could go to to help me streamline. It would have been a lot less painful the last decade.
Well, but that's also that's huge because part of it is too, if somebody decides that they are going to take some of your education program or mentorship program and they turn around and they go, it's not for me.
Yeah.
That's a win too. And I think that's what's so
Yeah.
amazing is to figure out, wow, I didn't realize how much this entailed. And this is not for me. Nicole, you have my referrals,
Yeah.
that's huge as well. So okay, Johnny, thank you so much for your praise. He said, great job, ladies. Just want to give a quick plug to the Texas Realtors Conference. It is going on
Yes.
right now virtually. So pick up some free CE, network, and grow your business. So Johnny put the link in the chat. And he's right. There's always opportunities, free opportunities. You have free content on your YouTube channel, you know.
Yep.
And again, if it's not something that you can get through Texas Realtors or NAR or your local brokerage or Metrotex or one of the other associations, there is opportunities out there. And so we've got a couple minutes left. Plug your stuff, Nicole. Where can people go?
So they can go to our website, thessqueen.com, and on there they can find, how to reach out to us if they want to refer a lead or refer a client or just ask questions, as well as all the education that we provide, and YouTube. So we're always putting out weekly YouTube videos, like you had said, on how to help realtors, on talk to clients, get clients, and keep people updated on what's going on in the market. Like, so kind of what we talked about with forbearance ending. So we're constantly doing updates that, and all you have to do is just put the short sell queen. You'll see it there.
Okay, so the great wizard behind the scenes put find Nicole at the ssqueen.com. So we've got all these links in here. And just know that we're continuing to monitor the chat even after we're no longer live, guys. So share this with your colleagues, share this with people in your office. Watch it again. If you've got any questions, go ahead and chime in. I will still be there to answer. And if it's something I can't answer, I will reach out to Nicole personally. But I will tell you, we're going to end 1 or 2 minutes early because the Cowboys are playing tonight and I have to get home. So I told my husband I would be in that car at 6:30 on the dot. So
All
Nicole,
right, let's do
I'm
it.
going. Thank you
Okay.
so much for
My
joining me
pleasure.
tonight, and I hope we get to collaborate again. Good luck
Absolutely.
with the baby, and thank you for all you're doing to raise the industry standard and our very low bar.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed our conversation. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.